Welcome to the Are We Idiots Show, where we question the status quo on society's important issues while mixing in plenty of laughs along the way. Now, here are your hosts, Mark Weaver and Rich Kroll.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Are We Idiots Show. We are your hosts, as always, Richard Kroll and Mark Weaver.
Mark, it's an honor to be here in Bryn Mawr, United States. And I haven't felt as honored probably in any of our previous 59 shows due to our guest this evening.
We do have a guest in the show, and we'll get to him in a second, but we always do first, Richie, your tip of the day, because our listeners are waiting with bated breath for you to unveil your episode wisdom on them. Do you have anything for them today?
Bad breath or bated breath?
Bated.
Got it.
Bated
so
breath.
Here's one, and I got to articulate this correctly because you'll see what I'm talking about. I'm not making fun of a particular class of people. I'm actually promoting them. So hear me out.
We wouldn't want to do that because
we've
that
never
would
done that on this
qualify
show.
for our second segment today.
Never done that before. So you have to be able to laugh at yourself.
True.
And you-
I rarely do, though. But
You're a little too
serious.
serious. You have to be able to laugh at yourself, even in the face of ironic situations. So this Saturday, I had the privilege of some alone time with my wife, and we actually went to a matinee. Very rare. I don't go to the movies too often, like 2-3 times a year. And I'm in line at the food counter, ordering some pretzel nuggets, popcorn, and I say to the guy, I'd like a diet fountain soda. And he goes, okay, which
Crickets?
kind? And I said, the medium size. He goes, no, what kind?
yeah,
I said, I want the medium container in the middle, that kind.
because there's multiple choices for you to get
Well,
whatever
I'm
you want.
picturing, you know, at a lot of fast food restaurants, you get your cup and you go over
Right.
to the fountain?
Right.
Well, no, here the fountain he pours.
Ah, okay. So you didn't get that.
So I didn't get that. So now there's people, behind me starting to get annoyed.
Saying what an idiot.
So I look behind me, and there's a Down syndrome challenged adult, 40,
Right.
45.
Right.
I look back with this sorry look to him, and he goes, you didn't have any coffee yet today, did you? And I go, as a matter of fact, I didn't. And I said, I love you. That's funny. He goes, I'm not trying to be funny. So then I said, listen,
You're taking abuse from Down syndrome.
I said, but here's why it's funny, sir, because it's true. And he walked up and he gave me a big hug.
Nice.
We hugged it out, and then he
That's-
started laughing.
That could be like a Target commercial or something. I mean, that was beautiful.
It was so heartwarming, and
that would have been a Super Bowl winning ad if that was,
it was just a great moment. So I didn't take myself seriously. He pointed out me being an idiot, and I loved it.
And you were very culturally aware and politically correct in all of that dealings, which really makes this show even more apropos.
Wow.
Which, by the way, do you know the origin of matinee?
No idea.
Neither do I. But as you were saying that, I was
Isn't
thinking,
that
where did
French
that come from?
for day movies?
I don't know. I would guess, but I don't know. I actually got a little tip of the day, Rich. If you just bear with me, I know I don't usually do this, but I actually got several questions over the last few months of why do you guys call it Are We Idiots Show? Are you guys trying to be idiots? So I thought I'd just repeat because most of our listeners are new since we first started this show. The Are We Idiots show name came about because Rich and I got to a certain age and we were questioning the status quo around us and society around us. And it was a rhetorical question, like, are we the idiots? The world seems to be going crazy. We're questioning what's going on in the world. So it's a rhetorical question, listeners. That's how we got the Are We Idiots show. So,
Are we the idiots, or is everybody else an idiot? Or
Yeah.
are we all collectively idiots?
and from day to day, it can change.
And it's a lot of both.
And every episode we do that. By the way, folks, we have a patron in our studio to have some fun with us today, Chris Barbie. He's not only a patron, he's a good friend of mine and Rich's. And I guess we've been friends, Barb's, about 15 or 20 years, somewhere going on that.
That sounds right.
But Chris I guess this all came about because Chris was on a text group with Rich and I for the last maybe 2 years, which has recently died, by the way, much to Rich's dismay.
I won't name names, but a handful of guys were real party poopers.
But Chris was a good sport. But I guess Chris's favorite subject on the text string was some of the political correct stuff going on in our society. So he thought it'd be a good idea to do a show on political correctness, and we asked him to be a guest. So, Chris, welcome to the studio. And what do you think as you about to enter this madness of the Are We Idiots show?
It's wonderful to be here, Mark. It's a great day outside. It's even greater to be in here.
In this beautiful studio.
In this beautiful studio, enjoying the banter and being part of the banter, not just listening to it. But, doing a little research for this, as you might imagine, it's target rich. So,
yeah, we have plenty of ammo.
Pretty easy to come up with the ammo. There won't be any blanks fired here.
This topic is the epitome of Are We Idiots?
Yeah.
Am I right?
For sure. And I was actually thinking about it. It really ties in to and interweaves with a lot of our other shows. I mean, we did the Helicopter Parents show, which some of this stuff came up. Certainly the social media show, it came up. The victimhood culture, I think, really hit home. But this will allow us to have a lot of fun and maybe at some people's expense. But that's all right. We have to point out when society is going awry. But we're going to first do Idiots of the Week, which will be fun. We each have a nominee for Idiots of the Week. And then we're going to talk about political correctness, run amok. And then we're going to close the show with what I'm calling the woke quiz.
WOKE?
Correct.
Not wok quiz.
No.
It's not a Chinese food quiz.
No, not that.
Got it.
And I knew I was in trouble with this because when Rich got the outline of the show, he said, what's a woke quiz? I said, you know what woke is? He says, no. I said, uh-oh. But anyhow, we're going to have some fun. It's basically how politically correct are you two? And I have some questions, and we'll laugh through them and make fun of each other.
Well, that's a different question. How politically correct are we, or do we know the answers to the woke quiz?
Correct.
That's a different.
It is a different question, but we'll have some fun and get some laughs, if nothing else. All right. So, Idiots of the Week. Barbs, you are our guest, so I will ask you to submit your nominee now. And as always, Rich is our judge and jury as to who is the winner.
Well, I don't know what rules, if any, there are around Idiot of the Week, but this one stands up there. And anyway, I'll just dive into it.
Go for it.
This is about President Donald Trump.
Oh, boy. Always a good topic.
Received a chilly reception Tuesday after announcing via the Twitter platform that he would not visit Denmark. The reason? The country won't sell Greenland to the U.S.
Seriously? How did I miss this one?
Greenland is not Danish, Denmark Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen told reporters per AP. Greenland is Greenlandic. I persistently hope that this is not something that is seriously meant. That comment was enough for Trump to cancel a planned September trip to the nation.
Yeah.
The president initially downplayed reports that he wanted to buy Greenland, claiming it's not number one on the burner. However, in canceling the trip, he indicated that it was, in fact, the main reason for his visit. And since she's not selling, he's not going.
Wow, I knew he canceled the trip.
He had a hissy fit. He basically had a hissy fit.
I didn't know that was the reason. I read that he canceled the trip. That's amazing.
So obviously, he took some hits on Twitter. One of my favorites is from a guy named Philip Bump. Says, well, since the proprietor of Chuck E. Cheese won't allow me to purchase the animatronic drummer from the Beach Bowsers, I won't be holding my child's party there.
Are large continents ever for sale?
Yeah, well, actually, Louisiana Purchase, the Seward's Folly. I mean, it's actually a pretty common history.
This
I think
isn't 1840.
Yeah, but actually, was it Truman or somebody else tried to buy Greenland? Another president tried to buy Greenland. It's not that outrageous of an idea. But obviously, you would do it in private, and you wouldn't have a hissy fit if the person turns you down. But
by the way, Greenland's melting by billions of tons of ice a day.
And actually, Barbs, I sent you that little meme of it was a Greenlandic village of all these shanty towns, basically, and there's a gold Trump Tower superimposed on the coastline. It's Greenland in 5 years, right?
I think when he first brought this up, he said, it's basically just a big real estate deal. Like real estate.
All right, that's one nominee. And by the way, I could have nominated Trump on
numerous
a number of occasions this week. But if you didn't catch it, he had a tweet that all companies were quote hereby ordered to look for alternatives to China. Hereby ordered. The dictator wannabe Trump. I know we have a lot of listeners that are Trump fans, but I don't get it. But whatever. That wasn't even my nominee.
Wow,
But
you slipped that extra
I did
one in there.
slip it in. Richie, what's your nominee?
Okay, former Ohio University standout Donnell D.J. Cooper was trying to catch on with a team overseas when a drug test revealed that he was pregnant. Cooper played at Ohio from 2009 to 2013.
Is this football?
This is basketball.
Oh, basketball, okay.
And went undrafted. He has spent most of his professional career in Europe with teams in Greece and Monte Carlo. He spent some time coaching with the Bosnian national team. Cooper has been balling, well, in more ways than one, overseas, and was attempting to join the Bosnian national team as a naturalized player in 2018. The test on Cooper's urine revealed the presence of human chorionic gonadotropin, or HCG, for those of you scoring at home,
Gonadotropin.
which is a hormone made by the placenta during pregnancy. Cooper was given a 2-year suspension after he submitted his girlfriend's pee for this drug test, and the said test revealed that she was with child.
Yeah. Or if he's referred to as he or she, it could be they, right?
I may have broken some rule, gender-specific rule.
How about the idiot we had like 6 months ago that she heated her urine for the drug test in the 7-Eleven microwave and
Blew it up.
exploded?
That was a great one.
Oh boy! All right, so
7-Eleven was that?
yeah, I won't be going back.
Florida,
there.
probably.
Yeah, Florida. Florida is about half of our idiots. All right, here's my nominee, guys, because as you know, the whole world is going towards subscription services. You know, obviously leasing cars was kind of first, but now people use subscriptions for food, for Netflix, for what have you. Software is a big one. But now I finally figured out why millennials don't have any money to buy homes. Enter the Nike Adventure Club. Did you guys hear about this week?
New.
It's for kids ages 2 to 10, and it's a sneaker subscription service.
2 years 2 years old.
2 years old to 10. I mean, obviously the parents sign up for it, but it's only available for kids 2 to 10. 4 pairs per year, 6 pairs per year, or 12 pairs per year.
One per month.
Is the subscription plans. $20 a month, $30 a month, and $50 a month.
Wow.
So $600 a year is the top bracket
For your toddlers.
for your
Nikes.
toddler's shoes, right? Here's the crazy thing. Here's where the idiots come in. It's the people that signed up for this. They sold out in one day. There's a waiting list. There's a waiting list. So you wonder why
Lord help us.
we talked on this show that 40% of the people in the country don't have $1,000 saved. Well, yeah, if you're buying $50 a month for your kids' sneakers, $600 a year, instead of going to the local place and buying Keds or whatever to make them last a year, I mean, that is outrageous.
Well, it's like the guy that used to live next door to me in Florida, and they didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. He came home one day and he had brand new tires. And I said, Bob, that was nice. How'd you get those? He goes, it's only $12 a month.
For tires?
For the rest of his life.
Oh,
Barbs,
goodness.
Barbs, do you remember growing up when we couldn't wait to go to the shoe store every 2 years to get our Converse canvas high tops?
Right.
And the only time we were to go back for a new pair was when there was a hole through to our sock.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah. So anyhow, Richie, those are the nominees for Idiots of the Week. What say you?
Well, look, I know a lot of our listeners are pro-Trump. I could easily pick Sir Donald. I'm not as negative to Trump as a lot of people. I'm also not as positive to Trump as a lot of people. I'm a middle grounder.
Yeah, we know that.
But he's, I don't know if he does things on purpose or he's that much of an idiot with comments like that. So he does it so often. It's a great one, Barbs. But, the basketball player that's got caught being pregnant and kind of ruined his short-term career. A lot of people are handing in different people's urine to pass drug tests. But I got to say, for a $600 a year
Nike Adventure Club. It's
Nike
really,
Adventure
it's got a
Club.
catchy name.
What is wrong with people?
A lot of people don't like Nike now, by the way, after all the whole Kaepernick thing. So they've really become a lightning rod.
Do I nominate Nike or all the people signing up for this?
I would say all the people signing up for it, because Nike is just trying to make money, and a lot of money, evidently.
Well,
So is this your first idiots of the week?
this might be
Yes.
plural.
Yes, it's
Idiots
plural.
of the week. I'm going to send $1 to Nike, care of all the
Colin
sold-out
Kaepernick.
idiots and Colin Kaepernick.
All right, folks. So we move on to our main topic of the day. And as I mentioned earlier, it's on political correctness run amok. I like that word, amok, Rich.
Can you spell it?
A-M-O-K.
Well, because it's in probably your notes.
Well, yeah, but I actually had to look it up because it could be spelled A-M-U-C-K back in the old days, but that kind of fell off. But A-M-O-K.
Great word. I don't use it enough in my daily vocabulary.
Either do I. But anyhow, let's briefly talk about the origins of the term. It really came about in the 1970s, and it actually started more in the liberal realm, and then it kind of crossed over in the 80s to become more of a term that conservatives use about liberals being over the top. And I guess I have a definition here if that would help the listeners, but political correctness is used to describe language, policies, or measures that are intended to avoid offense or disadvantage to members of a particular group in society. And this main emphasis around it is this term inclusive language, which we've all heard about, or language or behavior that can be seen as excluding, marginalizing, or insulting to groups of people considered disadvantaged or discriminated against, especially groups defined by sex or race. So that's kind of how...
So with a definition like that, it's screwed up to begin with.
It's screwed up to begin with. It's
that was like a 10-minute definition.
When I described microaggressions to Rich, there was some kind of similar definition.
I got aggressive
right?
when I heard that definition.
So anyhow, there's a lot of ammunition, as we talked about earlier. So what we're going to do in highlighting how this has run amok is go around, and we are each going to have multiple examples of political correctness in our society or in the news, and we're going to either agree with them, disagree with them. My guess is disagree with them, talk about them, bust on them, and then have some laughs, and then we'll wrap up and move on to the woke quiz at the end of the show. So, Richie, I'm going to start with you. What is your first submission to the political correctness run amok?
So a lot
Tally.
of this originates from our liberal universities, whether
Correct.
it's... I'd argue most of it comes from when a kid gets to university, he learns all this stuff, kind of gets brainwashed. Because what's offending people today is offensive to me. We've become so soft, right? Our grandparents walked 7 miles through snow in bare feet to get to school and didn't complain, right? Barb's, when I saw him in the parking lot and he said, "Hi, Rich," I said, "Why? Why do I? What's wrong with me? Do I look bad? What, you think I'm on drugs?" I was highly offended by him even saying hi to me.
He insinuated you were high.
I'm still a little peeved by it, but let me take it to another level. And a lot of mine are going to be university based today, but
Okay.
you and I covered, I don't know, a year ago, I believe it was the dean or somebody in PR or HR marketing at the University of Purdue that petitioned to have the word man banned from vocabulary in general. So if you remember, you couldn't even say manhole, right? Like, well, what's that circle, that heavy metal thing in the middle of the street we got to take out to get in it? Like, it's a manhole, right? So they wanted to take the word man out of cities like Manchester and Manhattan. So now it's
That was a joke, I think, wasn't it?
But the point is, we're
Yeah.
going to call it
Yeah,
People-Hatton, People-Chester.
Right.
So let's take it to the next level above university.
Go for it.
The city of Berkeley, which is known to be liberal,
Right?
has adopted an ordinance to replace terms with gender-neutral words in the city code. The San Francisco Chronicle reports that she and he will be replaced by they. The words manpower and manhole will become workforce and maintenance hole. By the way, you're a maintenance hole. If someone says that to you, that's another issue. The city council on Tuesday unanimously passed the measure to replace more than 24 commonly used terms. There will be no more craftsmen in the city code, only craftspeople or artisans. Berkeley has a long history of leading on politically and socially liberal issues. The sponsor of the ordinance is Councilman Rigel Robinson, a 23-year-old recent grad of the University of California, Berkeley. Surprise there. He says his time in college expanded his awareness of gender issues. Most critics suggested the council spend a little more time on more important matters. Seriously? Picture a council. Barb's your own
Spending
councils.
time. Yeah, spending time on this.
15 people sitting around a table for 3 hours, right? While there's homeless people and people killing each other.
Well, we want to have inclusive language, Rich.
I'm already angry, and we're 10 minutes into the show.
All right, Barbs, what's your first submission?
Well, I want to follow up on Rich's comment earlier, or to add fuel to the flame.
Go for it.
Fuel to the fire. With respect to colleges and universities, a couple of my examples are from there, but this is a study that I think kind of lays that out. And this is from October last year of 18. Many U.S. college professors are now regularly share their own social and political beliefs in class, and their students feel increasingly afraid to disagree. That's according to a new national survey of undergraduates due out next week. Again, this was a year ago. When students were asked if they've had any professors or course instructors that have used class time to express their own social or political beliefs that are completely unrelated to the subject of the course, 52% of the respondents said this occurs often. A majority, 53%, also reported that they felt intimidated in sharing their ideas, opinions, or belief in class because they felt they were different from those of their professor. So
That's called indoctrination, I think, is what it is. Crazy.
Horrible.
All right, here's a fun one, guys. A city councilman, Rich, you're going to love this. A city councilman was concerned that hosing poop-covered sidewalks might be culturally insensitive.
Of course.
A Seattle councilman expressed concern that hosing down some filthy sidewalks that smelled of excrement might be insensitive because, quote, because it brought back images of the use of hoses against civil rights activists.
You got to be kidding me.
Is that a quantum leap from hosing down civil rights activists? I mean, that is so we can't hose off excrement off the sidewalk? That's ridiculous.
I'm getting angrier by the minute.
Richie, your next one.
Gosh, I have actually so many. A lot of them, like I said, are college related. Evergreen State College.
Oh yeah, this is one of the biggest ones in the news. If this is one you're talking about,
told professors to take students' feelings into account when grading them. School officials actually instructed professors to take into account the emotional commitment that some students had made to protesting on campus instead of doing work, and to be aware that the work of students that have not been involved in the protests may also have been affected because many feel that the campus is not safe. The college's president had already given protesting students passes on their homework, a concession that was captured on a video that went viral in May.
well, we don't want to make them learn, Rich. They're going to college and they want to learn. They want to be sensitive to their needs.
Express and stand up for your feelings, even at the expense of paying $75,000 a year for your education.
Which, by the way, Evergreen State was also the site of this guy Brett Weinstein, who was this was actually one of the biggest PC stories of last year, and he was a professor there. And they had a longstanding day of absence on the Evergreen campus. This is one of the ones I was going to bring up, and that was where minority students and faculty would get together off campus once a year and talk about ways in which minorities could be better understood and taught to. And it went on for years. No one had a problem with it until last year, 2018, the administration said, we're going to flip it. And now they're going to be on campus and we're going to tell all the white people to stay away. And this white professor, who was a raging liberal, by the way, he was a progressive, said that he wrote a letter like on the internal email system saying there's a big difference between people optionally making a protest and staying away and telling people that they have to go away. You know, one's an act of aggression by telling people you can't come. And he caught all kinds of hell, and students protested him. Basically, the administration sucked up to the students, and he lost his job. He sued and got paid big. But that was a big story in the news. So, all right, Barbs, next one.
Well, not to bust on higher education, but we're going to move up to the Northeast to the Eli's at Yale.
Nice.
And, this is a couple of years ago. You may have remembered this.
Is this the husband and wife?
The Halloween incident. Anyway, before Halloween, there was an administration email that went out to, I guess, all the students, asking them to be sensitive about the type of costume that they might choose, that not be offensive to others, or not show that they aren't inclusive, that type of thing. And Erica Christakis, who was a professor there and was kind of a child, she was an expert in children education. And has long been, getting back to some of your helicopter parent episode and stuff, it's long been critical of how parents are taking away children's ability to figure things out for themselves. So she sends out an email saying, when Yale administration, when Yale sent out the all APB alert to all the students, she responded with an email of her own saying that genuine concerns about cultural and personal representation, lauding the spirit of avoiding hurt and offense, but questioning whether students were well served by administrators asserting norms rather than giving them space to shape their own. So, have we lost faith in young people's capacity to exercise self-censure, et cetera, et cetera? And apparently her husband also
stood up for her,
she
right?
She added something that she later attributed to her husband that basically said, if you don't like something, just look away, or if it offends you, go up to the person and say, hey, I'm offended by this.
Right.
Well,
and then they started screaming at her,
That
right?
didn't go over well. Students, responded, they protested, circulated a petition to get him out.
They're effing them up and down.
And here's one of the quotes is, you ask students to look away if costumes are offenses, as if the degradation of our cultures and people and the violence that grows out of it is something that we can ignore. Like, okay, there's going to be violence out of this.
Right. Speech is violence now in this
here's
culture.
Here's the fun part. Adding that we were told to meet the offensive parties head on without suggesting any modes or means to facilitate these discussions to promote understanding. Like, wait a minute.
Can you just go up and talk to them?
They're not teaching just how to go up to speak to somebody? I don't get it. So
Oh,
anyway,
man.
they ultimately had to resign their
Well,
position.
Barbs, here's where you are being insensitive. Because do you know how offended I was when you and I went out to Halloween together to trick or treat, and you showed up in a one-piece Baywatch bathing suit? I mean, I didn't think that was appropriate. Let's just say some things were hanging out, but and now you're going to bring this up about costumes. I'm offended.
Speaking of hanging out, Rich, did you know that the size of chairs was deemed a microaggression against overweight people,
Of course it is.
according to a guide released by the New School, a private college in New York City? If you are absolutely discriminating against people if the chairs aren't made to huge size. I think I'm being discriminated against on airline seats, by the way. They're ridiculous. They're getting skinnier and shorter. I can't even put my head back.
Well, how about the battle in the middle seat? Who gets two? Think about this.
Yeah.
Only two passengers can get two armrests.
Correct.
But the guy in the middle typically thinks
He gets
he
both.
should because he's got the worst. He's stuck
Right.
between two people.
Right.
So you almost have to do this. You juggle this kind of, I'll take the front, you take the back. You almost have to confront somebody and say, how are we going to do this?
Barbie never had to worry about that. He was always in first class when he was
Yeah,
flying.
good point.
All right, Richie, your next one?
certain kinds of eyebrows are deemed cultural appropriation.
Right.
According to an op-ed written by a student at Louisiana State University, LSU,
Right.
to most, women styling their eyebrows to make them appear thicker is an example of cultural appropriation.
You know what that is, by the way?
What is that?
Cultural appropriation is the adoption of elements of one culture by another culture. And typically it's like, let's say an example would be if there was one of my things was, the white women got accused of cultural appropriation by wearing hoop earrings because that was deemed to be a cultural thing that African American women used. So
That's offensive.
you were culturally appropriating something from their culture. So
Well, there's also the brouhaha over, let's say a white individual owning a Mexican restaurant.
Exactly.
You're appropriating,
Right.
You shouldn't be selling Mexican food.
That is
because you're
offensive. I might go to
Exactly.
a safe zone right now. I always thought growing up, remember Brooke Shields? Attractive, 6 foot tall girl
I do.
with the very thick eyebrows.
right.
I never knew why I was so offended growing up. She was trying to be a black woman, and I just couldn't figure it out. Why?
She was culturally appropriating before the term even
40
existed.
years ahead of its time.
Did you see with
offensive.
her? What was it? Blue Lagoon.
Blue Lagoon.
Oh,
Yes.
I had a crush on her after that. I must admit.
Who was the blonde hair guy?
Christopher
I thought it was-
Christopher something. What was the guy? Reeves
I
or
thought,
what?
I thought it was Jessica Alba, no?
No. That might have been the remake.
Yeah, there was a blonde guy. They were swimming
It was
around
like
and
Christopher something, wasn't
half
it?
naked in the water, blue water.
I was like a teenager and I remember that fondly. All right, Barbs, what's your next one?
Well, I was actually going to take us back to some origins, but
Go for
you
it.
got other.
Anything goes, Barbs, but don't offend me while you're going back to origins.
Well, origins meaning kind of corollary to how we got to where we are. But maybe
Go for
that's
it.
part.
I'm pissed off. That's how you define that.
I got one here that is really funny.
Go ahead, because I think this is better for the next part.
Okay. So authors are now hiring sensitivity readers to problematic proof their novels. Novelists are now employing sensitivity readers in order to make sure that they don't portray fictional characters from other communities in an inaccurate way. Are you kidding me? No one actually knows how to portray a fictional character in an inaccurate way, but nonetheless, they're actually hiring people to do research so that they don't offend someone with a fictional character and their culture behind that character. Does that qualify as running amok?
You remember,
That might be amok, AMUKK.
you remember the? I was asking earlier about the movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Tarantino is catching grief because it is mildly based on Sharon Tate and the Manson murders of Sharon
Right,
Tate and that
right.
group, but it's light years away from the actual facts that led up to that and the event itself. But the people that played the crazies that did the murdering
Right.
were shown to be hippies as opposed to what the people that are giving Tarantino grief were kind of white segregationist
Right.
conservatives. So why didn't you portray them as that, even though they're fictional people and they weren't even playing real parts?
And he's a Hollywood liberal. He's still catching grief. All right. Do we have one more, Richie, before we have to probably start to wrap up this segment in a couple of minutes? And
I'll
then
go
we'll move-
back to Berkeley because they might be the hub of where all this stuff starts. Berkeley students claimed they did not have enough privilege to take their exam in class. A group of students at the University of California, Berkeley, demanded that they be excused from an in-class exam because they just didn't have enough privilege to be able to handle it emotionally. Note to readers and students, I believe going to class and taking exams is literally what college is all about. I wish I could go to college now. Right? You don't have to go to class. You don't have to take exams. You can protest all you want, and you get a degree.
Yeah, for sure. All they want to do is cash the check.
Exactly.
Here's one real quick one before we leave. British student union tried to ban clapping and cheering because it was not inclusive to deaf people. They wanted to instruct the participants to use jazz hands instead.
Can you do that again?
Yeah, for the listeners, I am doing jazz hands.
looks like
And I can't dance at all, by the way.
Barbs, can you clap and do jazz hands at the same time?
You don't want to clap, Rich,
no,
because the
can't do
deaf people couldn't hear it.
Can't
But
do
what
it.
if you do both?
You can't do both. Jazz hands are like this, both.
No, it's one or the other?
Yeah.
So you're all in one or the other.
Yeah.
You're all in.
How would the people that can hear know what the heck jazz hands are?
They're supposed to look around. What happens if you're blind? You can't see jazz hands.
They probably think a rat was running up their pant leg if you start doing jazz hands.
Aren't jazz hands insensitive to blind people? They can't see them because jazz hands don't make any noise. So they're
That's next.
discriminating against blind people. The deaf people are benefiting.
Aren't jazz hands an offense to how the Pope waves with a half of a jazz hand? I mean, this can go on and on.
All right, before we go on to our quiz, Barbs, do you have anything else you want to add to
Well,
this
just
segment?
that the PC thing is gone way over the edge into the cliff, and the PC police are eating their own, right? So
Right.
if you just look in politics, the last few weeks, especially the Democratic debates, Biden gets blasted because he's trying to show that he could work across the aisle. It just happened to be with somebody that 30, 40 years ago was deemed a white segregationist. So now he's
Right.
Racist by definition or by association. Pelosi gets rammed because she's calling out the squad, the four new,
Right.
Incoming representatives because they're going too far too fast with not many facts, and she's only doing it because they're all women of color.
Sure.
was the chart. So
Right.
Again, she's
Right.
racist. So everybody, this leads down.
They're eating their own.
It's very well known where this ends up, and
And my summary on this is, or my recap of this is, probably the most famous protagonist in this culture war, I guess, is a guy by the name of Jordan Peterson. I'm sure you guys have heard about him, and he's become very famous and very wealthy over the last couple of years because he essentially was one of the first people to come out and resist the politically correct culture within academia. He was a professor at McGill College in Canada, and Canada passed it was in Ontario. Ontario Human Rights Bill was called Bill 16, and essentially it was requiring people in colleges, professors, to comply with this rights code. And the code said that you had to use the person's preferred pronoun if asked. And he refused. Jordan Peterson refused that he wasn't going to call someone they or it if it was a he or a she. And it wasn't because he necessarily objected to them wanting that. It was that he thought that was a very slippery slope to compulsory speech. And he drew a line, and he ended up actually leaving there, but he went on to post a lot of YouTube videos about it. He wrote books. He's lectured all over the world now. So I do have hope in that someone like that can get a big audience and he can push back on this craziness because let's face it, guys, we are in a 100-year arc of progressive thought. There's been some bumps of conservatism in the Reagan era, and maybe Trump's not really conservative, but he's not a progressive either. So, there's been tiny bumps that have gone the other way, but the long arc of history in our country since Woodrow Wilson has been leaning more progressive, and I tend to believe that that's where we're heading more so.
agreed with that.
What do you think, Rich, as we close out this segment?
Well, two things. It's a little upsetting that we can't appease people that want to use certain gender pronouns. I asked my boss this week, moving forward, if he could refer to me in sales meetings as Big Daddy K, and he pushed back on it. He said, I'd prefer to say Rich. So we're in a big fight over that.
Of X gender?
Of X-gender.
X-gender,
Big Daddy K
yeah.
of X-gender. What do you feel about the, properly putting proposals together for Fortune 500 companies?
Where's it going, Richie? Where's it going?
Here's the problem. Today's current society that's being initiated from all these liberal universities for this insanity and wasting time, it is what it is, right? I'm starting to have a bigger problem with whether it's the press or people going back into someone's past and trying to use that against them today, right? We're all different people,
Right.
right? Who
Well,
I
it's
was at
different time,
10,
different people.
exactly. Who I was at 20, who I was at 30, etc. It change. We go through, we morph.
Right.
I've said plenty of things off color just to get a laugh that if I was running for office today could be used against me. I think it's a shame, especially when I see people purposely trying to find something that was said by somebody in junior high or high school and then trying to use that against them to show who they are today when they don't even remember they said it.
Right.
Well, not only that, you could argue that that shows that they have the mental capacity to receive new
Evolve.
information and evolve, as
Right.
opposed to somebody who's just a raving lunatic their entire life. Right?
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, and Barb brought up the Kamala Harris charge to Joe Biden, and I'm not a super fan of Joe Biden, but the irony of that whole outrageous charge was that busing didn't work. I mean, he was against it. It didn't work, and she's not even for it. But she was accusing him of something that didn't work, and she's not even for it now. Outrageous. But anyhow, like you said, Barb's, they're eating their own. All right, folks, we're going to move on to our woke quiz or our PC quiz, and we're going to have some fun with this. And I am the
Greatest,
You're
the
quiz
greatest.
master?
I am the quiz master, and I am the final judge of who wins this. By the way.
Jeez.
All right, guys. So we're going to ask some questions. Some are going to be multiple choice. Some are not. Just free form answer. So, guys, first question is: what do you say to people during the December holiday season? Do you say,
What do I say, or what?
yeah? What should you say to someone, and you greet them during the December holiday
I
season?
suppose happy holidays is too straightforward, but
Is that your
happy holidays. That's my
happy
Holidays.
Happy holidays?
That is such a cop out, Barb's. What I
I
say.
didn't say I would say that.
Oh.
He was asking what the woke response is.
What should you say?
No. Well,
Do you want what we say, or what
Well-
we think you should say?
Well, you can do whatever you want.
All right, so
This is a woke quiz to see what
Barb's,
you.
so what you should say, you're saying is Happy Holidays, but what do you actually say?
I say Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Thank you, Chris Barbie, for being a human. Now, here's what I'm trying out. So I run into somebody, haven't seen them in a while. I'm not sure what country they're from or what religion they are. I just go through Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Boxing Day, and Happy
Festivus. Don't forget Festivus.
Festivus, and would you like to buy Greenland?
So
And
you-
I feel like I'm covered.
So the answer is you're supposed to ask them which holiday do they celebrate, and then wish them happy Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, Christmas, whatever. So that's the appropriate way. If you're PC, you want to be sensitive to everyone's. You can't assume. All right, here we go. Question number two.
I've
Just
grown
shoot me.
already.
This is a multiple choice. What are your thoughts on the name of the Washington Redskins? 1, it's highly offensive and should be changed. 2, it's not right, but it doesn't bother me. Or 3, people are way too sensitive. I threw that one in there.
3.
So I would argue nobody stops and thinks about a name, right? I'm a Viking. I come from Polish Viking heritage. And, we did some things back in the early 1200s I'm not proud about. And by the way, Vikings didn't have horns coming out of their helmets. So,
You don't think it's a little different by referencing someone's skin color?
well, okay. So Redskins, because there's also a logo on the side of the helmet which depicts a dark-colored Native American, I could see that one being over the top, right? I mean, although Barb's and I tried to buy this local AAA baseball team, and we wanted to call them the Havertown Honkies, and we had a picture of Mr. Clean on the side of on the baseball caps. That didn't go over either. So maybe I'm not a good one to ask.
They made
this.
you change it?
Yeah, see, I actually kind of like. I actually don't think there's anything wrong with that Washington Redskins, and I think that's borne out by surveys of people, around the area, including people who might be of, Indian
Native
origin.
Americans.
I would decide more on the logo's nice. Now, if you go to the Cleveland Indians, I mean that was a wacky. That was
The
a
big
wacky
smiling
logo.
Indian?
Yeah, that was the wacky logo. I could see that being a little derogatory, but
Yeah,
watching
the
Redskins-
screaming Indian. My thought on it is, if I'm the quizmaster, I don't know if I should weigh in, but my thought is that it's offensive and it's probably racist, but it's a private company, and he should be able to name his organization whatever he wants and take the consequences of it, which is, by the
I
way,
agree. I could see how that one would push the wrong buttons. Just like that team that tried to name their team the Jersey Jews. I mean, I think it's probably on the same level.
didn't go over well.
No, it did not.
I don't
So
think,
how-
I don't think I'm leading.
We'll move quickly here. How do you supposed to refer to older people? We'll go you, Rich, first. How do you refer to an older person in society? Now,
You mean, how
what's
do you-
the
how do
proper
you-
term?
How do you address them? Or
Yeah. How would you refer to them?
I say, yo, geriatric. Is that the way to do it? Oh, my bad.
are
Senior
elders-
citizen. You're supposed to refer to him as a
ah.
senior citizen. That's the proper term. You can't say old. You can't say elderly. You can't say decrepit. You can't say.
Can I say grandma, grandpa?
Yeah, you can do that, but I'm
Okay.
just saying in a general term.
Oh, general term.
All right, Richie, you'll like this one. What do you call the individual that delivers your mail?
Oh, he only rings twice, but
Ooh, Barb's nice one.
postman.
No.
No, you're asking me what
Yeah,
I call it. I call it postman.
What do you think you're supposed to call
A
it?
post day.
A mail delivery correspondent.
What do you think, Richie?
An MDC, Barb's?
It just rolls off the tongue.
How about a postal letter appropriator?
Now, it's actually just very simple. It's a mail person. It's not a mailman.
male person.
A
Oh,
wait a
male
minute,
person.
how do you spell
But the
that?
word male
It's
is
2 words, male person.
But the word male.
not it's
it's gender
MAIL.
specific.
MAIL.
I know, but it can be
person.
confusing.
Yes, it
I'm
could be.
confused.
How about a they person?
All right, here's one
A
for
letter
you.
person.
Imagine that in conversation. My mail person. Oh, really? Yeah.
What pronoun would you use to call a transsexual woman?
Oh boy.
So that's a male that's converting to a female. Is it he, his, she, hers, they, theirs, or it, its, or whatever pronoun that person prefers?
I like to go with X's, which is a choice now on the PA license.
It is. Did you see that, Barbs?
Yes, I did.
PA license, you don't have to declare gender anymore. So what do you think, Barbs? Do you think it to be he, his, she, hers, they, theirs, it, its, or whatever that person prefers?
Well, the easy answer is whatever that person prefers.
And that is the right answer. You're supposed to ask
That's the
them
layup, yeah.
what they prefer. Now, in my mind, it's either a male or a female, so I don't even get into this whole thing. But if you're transitioning to a female, I would say then you're a female, not an it or whatever. But so I don't understand this whole thing. But yeah, you're supposed to ask them what they would be preferred to be referred to as.
I'm
and then
learning a
use
lot
that.
from Chris. He's so politically correct.
But if just by asking, aren't you potentially offensive?
Insinuating?
What if somebody's
Yeah,
not really?
yeah. And by the way, my
Transitioning.
wife actually made a very bad error one time where she asked one of her friends she hadn't seen in a while, when did she do, and she was not pregnant.
She was just heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That you don't get over that one too easy. All right, last question, then we got to wrap it up. What should be the preferred replacement for the announcement, ladies and gentlemen, when making a public introduction?
That's easy.
All y'all.
I like that, Barb's. I would go with, hey, use X's and it.
What do you think, Barbs? What should be the preferred instead of ladies and gentlemen, which you're not allowed to say anymore, evidently?
That's offensive to me.
What do you think would be the appropriate term you're supposed to say?
I really have no clue.
Dames and blokes.
It's suggested that you should say assembled guests.
Assembled guests.
That's a
Assembled
great suggestion.
guests. So I would say Barbie won that by a hair. It was a short quiz. We had to
Well,
cut it
he
short
actually
because
has hair, so yes, he won it by a
we're
hair.
running out of little
All
time.
y'all pulled me through. Yeah.
But thanks, Barbs, for being part of this tomfoolery today. And make sure you listen, folks, to our next episode entitled Retirees. Barbie's one of them. Retirees are not money managers. And I've been thinking a lot about retirement over the last year or so. My wife and I are starting to think towards what retirement would look like for us.
You're not retiring, though.
I don't know if I am. I'm trying to figure it out. But what I have figured out is that this generation is going to have to be money managers, unlike past generations or people that have a pension, which are dwindling. But anyhow, it's fraught with a lot of problems with professional money managers. People are not. And we're going to talk about that in all its detail next episode. As always, please remember, if what you see or hear sounds idiotic, then we're just the guys to help you sort it out. See y'all next episode. Take care.
Thank you for listening. Please download, subscribe, share, and review on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, and also our website.